If you have a high prescription, you've probably been told you can't have certain types of glasses. Well, is that true? Not exactly. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can have thin metal frames and even rimless glasses, even with a really high prescription. So hi, I'm Robert, Style and Vision Consultant here at the Spectacle Factory, and it's my job to pair you with your perfect pair of glasses. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how we made two really amazing pairs of glasses for two clients with very strong prescriptions from different parts of the world, and you're going to be seeing just how good they actually look. I'm going to be sharing little tips and tricks on how to get your lenses thinner, and also which frame brands are best for you to look at. So let's start with this project. These glasses, believe it or not, have a -6 prescription. Now, most opticians will tell you if you have a -6, avoid thin metal frames like this. And that's because a minus lens gets thicker towards the edges. Let me demonstrate. So this is a roughly -4. As you can see, it looks pretty thick. If we actually take our calipers and measure the thickness of this lens, in the center, it's actually only less than a millimeter thick. It's towards the edges where the thickness happens. So as we measure that and the extremity, it's more like 5 millimeters thick. If we extrapolated this lens to the edge of the room, it would be like several meters thick. It's general practice to avoid thinner frames because at the edge of the frame is where the lens thickness is going to be. However, not everybody wants a thick, chunky acetate frame. A lot of people want a modern, stylish, minimalistic frame like this. So how were we able to achieve it? Well, there were actually 3 ways that we did. The first is by sourcing the thinnest glass lenses from Zeiss in Germany. Say what you want about glass, there are pros and cons to it. I'm one of the only opticians probably in the world advocating for glass lenses. But whatever your opinion on whether glass or plastic is better, there is no question that glass is thinner than plastic. Plastic maxes out at a 1.76 index. The refractive index is a measure of how much a material bends light, and therefore the higher that number is, the less of it you need to focus the light that your prescription requires. Glass maxes out at 1.9. So all things being equal, you're going to get, in my experience, roughly 15 to 20% thinner lenses from glass than you would with plastic. But that's just the start. The next aspect was getting the perfect frame selection. And I'm going to show you, using our in-store software, how we were able to calculate exactly why the frame was going to work in this case. And this is the exact order that we're looking at now for this pair of glasses. As you can see, the exact power is approaching -6, including the astigmatism, which is the second value in the column here. Now, this has all the frame information and all the prescription information, the lens measurements keyed into it already. This is a 3D render of how those lenses are going to come out. So we can see how well balanced and how even, how equal the thickness is all the way around these lenses. But if we now look at the actual measurements specifically, we can see through various points of the lens exactly down to the 10th of a millimeter how thin or thick the lenses are going to look. And we can actually rotate across this cross section and we can see where the thinnest parts are, where the thickest parts are. This lens gets to a maximum thickness of 3 millimeters in the right eye, 2.8 millimeters in the left. And knowing that this frame is roughly 2 millimeters thick, I can look at that and say, yeah, that is actually going to come out really well for this client. But here's the thing. Let's say this frame was 3 millimeters wider than it is now. Let's plug that into here. Because of the laws of physics, because of the rule that I explained earlier with the lens getting thicker towards the edge, we've now added 0.5 millimeter of extra thickness to that lens edge. Now, 0.5 millimeter might not sound drastic, but it is the difference between your glasses looking pretty good and looking perfect, as in this case. And by the way, whilst we're on this software, one of the individual little tricks that I always add into the equation is to select a flat base curve. The base curve is the front curve of the lens, and the flatter that is, the thinner the end result is going to be. Now, base curve selection is a whole complicated subject, but if you're trying to get the lenses to look as good as possible, you would always want it to be as flat as possible on the front. There was a finishing touch that we had to make to get them as perfect as they are. Just ordering these frames and these lenses is not enough. The finishing that's applied to them is absolutely crucial. We were able to chamfer the edges of the lenses by hand and then polish them again by hand, so that even the thickness that is showing, technically there's like a millimeter of thickness overhanging the frame, is virtually invisible. And this is the end result, a pair of glasses that actually looks awesome despite the strong prescription. A beautiful pair of glasses to wear as well. A lot of people are concerned about the weight of glass, but if it's actually worked with properly and paired with the correct frame choice, these are not a heavy pair of glasses. Honestly, I mean, they're not weightless, they have a really solid kind of feel to them, but They're not heavy and they're not pressing on the bridge of my nose. And the frames themselves, by the way, let's just take a moment to marvel at how lovely they are. This is the Petit Palais from RLM. And RLM is my most recommended frame brand when it comes to working with a high prescription. Whilst they do really nice petite fitting metal frames like this, they also do small fitting, thick acetate frames like this. And if you had a stronger prescription, let's say you were like -10, -15, this frame is amazing. The Rue Bosquet is probably my most recommended frame for high prescriptions. It fits relatively comfortably for small to medium-sized faces. Obviously a little bit heavier because it is quite a thick acetate frame, but having this super thick, I mean, let's measure it with the calipers. We're talking close to a 6mm thick outer rim. This will accommodate virtually any prescription and look good whilst doing so, because RLM is also, in my opinion, the most stylish eyewear brand in the world. And outside of RLM, my next most recommended brand, if you want something really classy and kind of vintagey, is the Lindbergh Buffalo Horn series. There is just something so pure and so special about buffalo horn and glass. That's like kind of how glasses should be. That's how glasses used to be. Really, magical materials, glass over plastic, buffalo horn over plastic. Having a pair of glasses where there is no plastic and these materials are actually like super premium, there's just something very special about it. And a frame like this, which is from the Lindbergh Horn series, is again ideal for a high prescription because it is rounder, because it is smaller. But there are actually quite a few different shapes within that collection that work really well for high prescriptions. You don't just have to have round glasses, but the rounder the better. And to demonstrate that, let's go back to this software for a moment. Because if I take all the same proportions from here and let's modify the shape to a square, for example, even though the dimensions of this are going to be the same, we're now getting to 4.2mm. That's an extra 0.7mm at the thickest point of the lens, just from the shape being different. The cool thing is that in 2025, there are so many different versions of round. And for those of you who say, I don't suit round glasses, it's just not true. You really have to get out of that mindset because round is quite a wide umbrella that encapsulates lots of different styles of glasses. What if you want rimless glasses? Well, that can be one of the most challenging types of glasses to make in a high prescription, but we love a challenge. And this pair for a client in the US, I think just came out incredibly well. These are close to a -9 prescription. And despite that, we were able to make rimless glasses when this customer had been told it's not possible. This is the new for 2025 C de Cartier rimless frame in platinum. And I love what they've done with the new C de Cartier line. We've got these ridges which are emblematic of the Premier de Cartier finishing incorporated into the C de Cartier, and it does look really exquisite. And that's not just to do with the frame. With this pair, to make it possible, we used deep faceting on the back surface of the lens, where the lens would ordinarily be thicker. On top of that, we've polished it, polished it, polished it. This has been like supremely polished on every single surface around the edges. And it creates a gemstone-like appearance, which actually is something that Cartier make in their off-the-shelf lenses. So this is the Greenwood C de Cartier design, and it comes stock with those deep back facets. So what we're doing here with this project is taking that thickness that would be there and turning it into a feature. It's a part of the glasses, just like it is here. And that combined with my favorite sweet violet tint and a green photochromic, which we're going to explore in a moment, meant that these are a stunning pair of glasses, despite the prescription. So if you have been told you can't have rimless glasses, I virtually guarantee that you can if it's done right. And like I was saying, these glasses have a magic trick of their own as well. We're going to react these with UV light. I'll be right back. So after about 30 seconds in the sun, these lenses tint to a dark green color, which makes the facets stand out even more. The finishing touch on these was a crystal AR coating. Anti-reflective coatings usually have a color to them, which sometimes can kind of ruin the tint that you're going for. But crystal means colorless. So the anti-reflective coating does not detract from the tint, whether you're indoors or outdoors. For this project, we work with IoT, and these are plastic lenses because unfortunately glass lenses, not really suitable for rimless. When you drill through it, it's gonna crack. But plastic, despite the high prescription, in 1.74 index, with all the customization of the tints and the photochromic, it can still look amazing. And there is another way that you can achieve sun protection from the same pair of glasses with a custom sun clip. We've been working closely with OptiClip in the Netherlands to produce custom, fully bespoke sun clips for any pair of glasses. And why not? If you're gonna have a cool pair of glasses, why not add a cool sun clip to it as well? Opticlip are doing amazing work, and I'm really proud to partner with them, and I think they deserve a lot of credit. It's something that's been missing in our industry for a while, but the ability to send in any frame and they will turn it into sunglasses, for me, is a game changer, especially if you have a high prescription. Those are my tips and tricks to get thin lenses, even in a frame that apparently you shouldn't have. How do you think these two pairs of glasses came out? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have found this video helpful, maybe share it with someone you know who has a high prescription. A lot of people give up hope. They assume that whatever glasses they're gonna get are gonna look terrible. That's not the case in 2025.